Welcome back, everybody. Welcome. If it's welcome back, then that's great. Then you've been here before to Curiosity Invited. And today I'm with my friend, colleague, think partner, fabulous thinker, David Bolton, who is, I more and more love the way you are described, probably by you, but maybe others as well, an educational activist. So thanks for being willing yet again, and you're welcome for me being willing yet again to have more conversations about a matter that I think is super important, and that everyone in the world seems to be speaking about, which is AI, and maybe it's best to start with, so people are wringing their hands about artificial intelligence collectively. Some are celebrating it and, just diving headfirst into the pool or swamp that is artificial intelligence. But there seem to be and I'll probably leave some out, but there seem to be sort of recurring fretting. And so, one is that it'll be captured by a bad actor of one sort or another, who will try to do dastardly things with it. And another is that it's going to put everybody out of work. And ironically, probably the first people to go are the people who've had a hand in creating it, right? But all the professions, people who sit at a desk much of the day will likely suddenly be looking around for, maybe I can train as a carpenter or a plumber. Who have yet to figure it out. And another is that AI itself will reach the point where it has its own desires, its own whims, its own interests that are not aligned, right? The alignment question, that are not aligned with people's interests and well-being, and not that it will become evil, but that it will, in the pursuit of its own interests, what we will consider evil will happen. It's just, like the colonists landing in the New World, they didn't intend, at least at first, to bring germs and disease, but they did, and then capitalized on it afterwards. But that's not the fretting you do about it. And so maybe best for you to start this conversation with an articulation of what you're wringing your hands about. And thank you, by the way, and thanks for being here. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. I appreciate it. And just for being a friend and being willing to dialogue into this, because I do think this is super important. It's hard to imagine anything that's more important if you give a kind of long arc concern for what's going on with humanity. I share all those first concerns. I mean, a bad actor, we have a Pentagon that just basically tried to rub out a whole AI company because it wouldn't capitulate to its use in autonomous kill machines. Right? So we don't have to go very far for that example.
You don't have
As far as companies, there was a news article today that said 60% of American companies are now planning on downsizing, laying off people in the face of the AI economy and what it means for work. The robots, what was it, yesterday or this morning, I forget which, Musk said there'll be 3 times more robots than people, faster than we can imagine. And I think the general rule about displacement of labor, which I've been concerned about and writing about for 15 years anyway, right, is that the way things work is that if a human being can be replaced by a machine in a way that saves the employer money, they will do it. Unless there's some kind of social taboo against it, it's just nothing personal, it's just business. If instead of having a person with all of the associated and collateral expenses of hiring and employing them, maintaining them with insurance and benefits and all the rest of it, and whether their kid got sick that day, and
how can they
got a hangover one day and they're pissy because they didn't get whatever they needed the night before with their, none of that stuff is applicable, right, with the machine.
Right.
If the return on investment of the machine is within the capital expenditure budget projection of that particular business to replace the human, they're going to do it.
Right.
And so,
and we've seen it, right? I mean, we've seen it in automobile manufacture, and it's, the busy line where people put it together are now a bunch of robots.
My concern for this began in early 1980s when I formed a robots company and were building machines that displaced labor. I could see the looks on the faces of people in large circuit board and semiconductor manufacturing operations when my machines came in and they were out of a job. And I noticed this happening way back when. And the rule I just described about the effect of the return on investment argument to the reduction of labor is it's a no-brainer. Of course, it's going to play itself out. So now it's a question of how, what is the cost performance of machines? What is their future forecast? In other words, what does it cost to replace a human mind on the job?
Right.
With the AI system, well, it's plummeting, right? So everywhere a human mind can be replaced by a machine, whether it's professors grading subjectively what a PhD student wrote. We used to think that would be impossible for a machine. They started doing that a decade ago.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
So there's no with the possible exceptions of creatives that are doing something that's not yet got any kind of framework for AI to catch up with, right? Everything else that can be routinized in intellectual or physical work, ultimately. When Musk talks about these robots, he's talking about robots that have human features and human dexterities that can watch a human do something and then learn to do it.
Yes.
Autonomously, right?
And that already happens. I mean, I've seen demos of a robot that watches somebody fold clothing, and then slowly it folds the clothing. It's just, and at some point it's better, and it doesn't make a mistake, and it may be slower at first, but it works 24 hours a day. So
net effect is it's faster and better and cheaper.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's good. Exactly. And so it's hard to imagine a job that's outside the scope. I mean, again, we have to step back and realize that we are in the Model A version of robot.
Right.
We're not even in the Model A version of robots, and we're just in the Model A version of AI. So what is it like when it grows up? And it's going to grow up fast. So what is it like when it grows up and we have robots that can do anything a physical human body can do, and AI that can do just about anything a human mind can do in terms of some kind of skill of performance? Right. And then both of them becoming ever cheaper by scale. What does the mass of humanity do? So that's all those things are very legitimate concerns, and things that I've been worried about for a long time, and that I think ultimately destabilize the economy. They represent a massive threat. But underneath them, there's something else, which you talked about. Well, what is my particular concern here? And my bigger concern is not so much what AI and robots can do, but what they can do inside a permission system that's, as we talked about the last time, a couple of 100 years old, that's just baked into the way that we all think and that we all take for granted. That this kind of business model's based on, which is that human cognition, your autonomy, your person is a manipulable asset that I can use AI to manipulate so as to make money from you, right? So whether that's the future of Super Bowl commercials, or it's just the pervasive background about the way everything online works, where everything you do online, every click, every movement is part of the information flow into an AI that is able to better anticipate what it is that turns you on, what it is that frightens you, in order to manipulate you into buying things, into voting particular ways. We've already seen this happening. All the evidence of what I'm just describing is already out there, right? But it's still, again, in its infant stage. Yet, this same ethic is arguably what flipped Europe. Right, the Brexit, the AI use of Brexit to target and manipulate based on understanding people's patterns and interests and fears and how to approach them and manipulate them towards a particular political outcome. The same was true with both Trump elections.
Right, and I can hear people listening to that, listening to what you just said, and being, right on the tip of their tongue is, yeah, but that stuff doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
And, right, I mean, so they show me so I click on electric razor, and then it shows me a bunch of electric razors. Every site I go to has got an ad of all these electric razors. And doesn't make me buy an electric razor, and doesn't makes me know, oh, there's another kind. Oh, there's another kind. Oh, I should look at that, right? So they see that as many people see that as benefit. I'm not, and I'm not that, find the right adjective, shallow, manipulable. So how do you respond to that, Bolton?
Well, there's some fantastic research by people that's their whole bag, is how advertising works, the degree to which it works on the human mind, and their main point in the entire summary. And by the way, one of the papers that I shared with you has got this. And if you go to it, is that it is probably one of the greatest paradoxes in psychological social science that almost everybody feels like ads don't work, and yet ads work. That in the collective aggregate, all the money that's being poured into all that ad machinery is being poured into it because it works, right?
Right.
And
they're not that stupid.
They're not that stupid. Yeah, the stupid's on the side that says it doesn't work.
Right. Exactly.
And there's evidence of that up the wazoo. So,
which is in some ways very much
I feel
like
the same way. I watched. It depends. It depends. The majority of ads, and I actually did a deep dive on this relative to ad frequency, ad depth, ad purposes, ad designs, right? Because in the 1950s, the average American was exposed to maybe 100 ads a day. Today, it's like 12,000 ads a day. Everything's advertising, right? And there used to be a time where the ads were at least 50-50 between being an intellectual appeal and being an emotional appeal. Now they're 90+%. They're trying to manipulate a feeling and associate it with an outcome.
You bet.
Right. And they're not trying to convince the intellectual side of you about the benefits of things. If there was an advertising system that was, instead of trying to be in your face and envelop you in this persuasive system, rather being a on-demand way to assess and compare things that you might be interested in, we could talk about something entirely different. That's why I say it's not the technology. The technology could envelop our minds in ways that could exercise us into being more productive, more creative, more playful, more healthy psychologically, in a million ways.
Pull that up. Oops, don't get my hands up there because it'll go out of focus. But
went out of focus.
So pull that apart, right? Like pull that apart. What does that mean? What does it mean? It's not the technology. When you say that, it's not the technology. It's
the purpose of the technology is the way the technology is being used to manipulate cognition, to manipulate people's agency. That rather than the technology being used to respect and support individual agency and collective agency, collective capacity for participation, collective intelligence, it's being used to mine that, to manipulate that, to extract value from people's attention. right? And that's a model that's been going on for a couple hundred years, and it started off, like we talked about before, in the newspaper business, and it's just gone like a submarine underneath every one of the media platforms, from newspapers, radio, television, internet, social media, now AI, that their fundamental undercarriage, if you will, is that all those things are just the surface of a attention extraction system designed to make money by manipulating human behavior.
Okay.
So that's what makes the technology bad, so to speak.
Right. So
for instance.
But help somebody. For instance, right? So we were just talking about razors, right? So there's an emotional appeal. I mean, the young woman looks at the guy who's got the great shave, and it's 80% of the male population. That's their fantasy, and so at least it gets their attention. And so, what's the alternative to that? How would the technology be better used about razors? Or is that the wrong question?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's playful.
I don't mean you have to come up with an ad campaign, but because it wouldn't be an ad campaign, right? It would be an informational.
It would be a learning support system for learning how to find a way to get a razor system that works for me. Correct. So for my face, for my cut, so maybe it would scan my face and say, well, given the contours of your face and the moles and pimples, this is the kind of razor that I would suggest, that kind of thing, right? Which is entirely different than, as you said, associating buying this particular brand with some lady's rear end.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And that's really the difference. The difference between a system that's designed to support collective or individual or team learning, right? Where it's going to envelop you in, it's not going to try to persuade you what the outcome is. It's going to resource you coming to what the outcome is for you.
Right. So, and again,
go for it.
Is persuasion right? Yeah. Just so people know, we had a brief conversation. Just to be really clear, I am on board with this conversation, and I want to push back, but not because I think it's wrong. So, is persuasion the same thing as manipulation? I mean,
can be.
Persuading it can be, but
sure.
Is it? Does it have to be?
It depends. So, for example, I may want to persuade my 4-year-old, not to go running in the street in front of the bus, and that's not about right. I may want to. There are situations where I'm responsible for somebody or something in some way in which. I knowingly am saying my agency trumps yours in this case, right? Where therefore I want to conduct you to an outcome that I think's right for you, and I have the license to do that as your parent, as your whatever, right? So maybe two people in a partnership together, marriage or whatever else. So they say, look, in this zone, you've got the ball, so persuade me about what you want me to do. That's fine. There's a role for that. But to covertly persuade you into wanting something you otherwise wouldn't want in order to make money from you, to persuade you to vote a particular way that you otherwise wouldn't in order for me to gain power or for my party to gain power, no. That's the distinction. And absent that distinction, we give license to this monster that we're talking about.
Yeah. Now my head is racing. One could see a role for persuasion, even in a fact-based, right? It gets the partisan piece, right? I mean, I was just thinking about think about politics, right? I mean, now it's God knows what it is. It's kind of a competitive game.
politics as it is a case in point for what we're talking about persuasion to run amok.
Totally, it is, and sort of foolishly, but if I'm standing up there running against person X, and I think person X is going to lead us all off the cliff, and I think I have a better solution that is not going to lead us off. I am going to try to persuade the audience that geez, don't go that way, because here, this is what's going to happen, and I can try and lay it out there, and then the other person says, well, let me explain to you why that's not true, and so.
But now you're describing
not the persuasion, it's the facts.
Right. Now you're describing persuasion as a learning conductor.
Right.
As opposed to a behavior manipulator.
Well, but the behavior manipulator is there. I mean, I am trying to get people to vote for my point of view rather than that point of view. So I am trying to change somebody's behavior, but I'm trying to change it by convincing. Well, see, it's even hard to think about how to talk about this and distinguish them radically, right? You know, why is my way of thinking about it different from Kellyanne Conway, who's just got a different alternative facts. Alternative facts. Right. Yes. Right. So it is a hard distinction among people who
got to watch that hand, man.
Don't want it to go that way.
It goes right into blur.
I know. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I understand that. I'm
not. That's because I'm blurred. I'm blurred. My thinking is blurred, and so am I.
Yeah, well, that's a good place to be, to realize that we're blurry here, right? Because this is the distinction. I say this. I wrote a paper a few years back called "The Pox on Both Houses," right? Referring to the fact that despite all of their differences, the two political parties in America, despite all of their differences, despite my affinity for the more left side of the humanity first rather than capital first or whatever else you want to describe about the right, despite my affinity to that, they fundamentally function the same way.
Absolutely.
They're both persuasion manipulation machines.
Right.
And the difference that you're pointing to, that seems to me to be the important one, is the difference between whether or not you care whether the person's compliance with you depends on their actual understanding, or just or you are content to manipulate them whether they understand or not.
Right. I don't give a shit why you vote for me. Just vote for me.
Just vote for me. And that's
even if you get it wrong.
The license that both parties use to manipulate the shit out of the population, and why both parties have participated in the stupidification of the population. Go back and listen to it. And I actually have done this a few times. Go back to 1960s talk show interviews between a politician and a news crew. And just listen to the rigor and detail and granularity of the conversation they're having. It's completely gone.
Yes, right.
Right?
Yeah.
The quality of the dialogue between the population and the leadership in this country has degraded profoundly, despite its super advancements. So? Yeah.
Lock her up, or a basket of deplorables. Take your pick.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And and both Benjamin Franklin and Jefferson knew this. Democracy, if you could keep it on the one hand, and with Jefferson, it was all about this thing only works if the population is enlightened enough and participative enough. Otherwise, the same shit that caused every other problem in world history will take this place over too, which it has.
Right. Which it has. Okay. Is that clear enough?
I don't know.
Do you think that's clear enough? Do you think we have laid out the dilemma clearly enough?
No, I think this is a kind of, framing some of the context, but I don't think we've gone to the deepest point, which is that, in a way, the way that it's kind of like this. Imagine that in the, industrial age, the Industrial Revolution, when it was first hitting America, that a kind of a toxic pollutant got released. Right? A toxic pollutant that had mental disability effects, learning disability effects, and it seeped into the groundwater of America. And it's been there for a couple hundred years, getting worse and worse and worse. Right? But worse than just a toxin that seeped into the groundwater and affected the learning capacity or mental clarity of the population. It was actually a toxin that made the toxic polluters money. It was the source of their power.
And I would have to add, and convinced the drinker of this toxin that actually it feels better. She feels better. Smarter now, much smarter. Look, I've done all this quote research, right? And so that has this intoxicating effect as well, and obscuring. I probably did it again, and my molecules probably dissolved again, and obscuring the fact that you're really getting sicker. You're really getting sicker. I know it feels better. It really feels better. It really feels like finally somebody is showing you what you want. You've been looking for this forever. Oh my God, you didn't even know you were looking for it. That's the
That's definitely a slice of it. But there's another slice to it is that this is just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
Just the way it is.
Just the way it is. Right.
Just the way it's like the air and the water and the ground and gravity, and it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is that the entire system is evolving faster, better for the past couple of centuries to get ever better at sucking the value out of your person through your attention.
Through your attention and your actions, and ultimately your actions and your
which follow your attention.
Resources to sustain yourself. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's become normalized. That's become just part of what we take for granted. That's the way it is. That's the problem. Not the technology, not in democracy. Not all those things are downstream effects of a fundamental, unquestioned agreement that we're all participating in to take that for granted.
Okay, Bolton, you just laid out a huge problem.
That's the problem that's underneath the AI revolution. That's yes.
Well, okay. Well, let's just do a little bit more about the AI revolution because, we know that that's true we know that that's true in social media. We know it's true, and it's become true in television. We know it's become true in radio, right? In newspapers. Sadly, I don't see any ads in my AI. If I go to ChatGPT, nobody's trying to persuade me of anything. Where's the ads? If they are, they're using such boring colors.
Are you a premium subscriber or plus subscriber in chat?
I don't remember which is which. I do pay for something.
Yes, right.
I do pay for something.
Right. So now it takes a little bit of lesson in the freemium models of the way software systems work. But for the most part, only a few percentage of the population of the users of a free system, or in this case, the AI, right, are actually pay for it, right? I think it's less than 5%. 5% of the total population of users of AI are paying for it. The rest are getting free. Now, if you're a free one, you'd already be seeing ads.
Really?
Yeah.
Like ads, I would be seeing ads like I see when I go to read an article in the Atlantic,
at the moment they're at the footer of the chat GPTs, right? But they're coming. Anthropic said, well, we'll never do that. But Anthropic's also putting itself up for an IPO, which leads to a professional board, which says, thanks for the good memories about what your initial mission is, but now we're about making money. And so, of course, we're going to have ads, right? So just like it was with radio, just like it was with television, just like it was with the internet, just like it was with social media, it starts off with this kind of more noble human intention and then gets taken over by the machinery that's paying for it. And there was just an ad today, or a news article today, about how we've been suckered into how free AI is, and that's about to change. Right? That you're either going to pay a lot for AI or you're going to pay a lot for it, like you do with even the streams. We bought the streams to get away from we got cable TV to get away from the advertising on regular broadcasts, and then it got full of advertising. Then we got streaming to get rid of that, and it's full of advertising, and on and on and on. So AI is going to become the projections that AI did for me when exploring this, said that by 2030, 92% of all AI users will be in freemium models, right? They'll be used. So half the population will spend half of their cognitive life inside of an AI mediated system, meaning not always directly working with AI, but working with systems that AI is embedded in, right? Half their cognitive life inside an environment that's 92% paid for by advertisers.
Right.
Half the population.
And given that AI is already so clever, they're going to be very clever about how to embed ads, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. So as to not get the frog to wake up in the hot pot.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. I think that's clear. That piece is clear. So what the fuck do we do about it?
Well, that was the point of the conversation.
Because you're talking about moving. You're talking about moving a mountain. You're talking.
I know.
A big one.
I know. But I mean, if we don't do this, what are we going to do? We're never going to win. We're never going to win whack-a-mole with AI.
No.
With this population's intelligence, do you think we're going to overcome an AI system that's embedded in all of our lives in super intricate ways with a manipulative intent?
We can't win at checkers. We can't win at chess. And we can't win at tic-tac-toe. We can't win at checkers, chess, or Go. So we're not going to win at this. Right?
Okay. All right. So there's no way to stop it through regulatory. I mean, the thing's evolving much faster than Congress can or any regulatory body can do it, right? Every time one of the companies have put some kind of ethical team in place, the ethicists have left the companies, right? At Google and at Anthropic and all over the place. It's like they pretend to be ethical. But ultimately, it comes down to they're going to do like we talked about, what money does, which is to make more money by using people. In this case.
Well, okay. So you've just painted a situation that is impossible.
Well,
no, it's not impossible.
I hope that it's not big. Impossible. I think it does require a kind of a critical mass of people to be aware that this is the problem. Otherwise, our energies are being, again, playing whack-a-mole with all the expressions. It's like getting upset with whatever Trump said today, right? And it's like, we get all excited and shit, how could somebody do that? How could we be so stupid, blah, 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 right? And it's just a ventilation and distraction and waste of our focus and our energy, because the problem is much deeper. And this is the same thing. The problem is much deeper. And so until such time as enough of us get a sense of the depth of the problem, we're not going to have any success here, because it's going to take a collective at that level. And then what does that collective do? I think there's a number of things, and that's part of that was the main part of our conversation.
That was the main part.
To go into
Right.
So, but I think this was really helpful, the way that you conducted us through the background.
Okay, but really now we're here.
Yeah,
now we're here, and I'm sure you would make your articles, whatever you call them. I don't know. You're writing about those two. One was structure. One was organizations, and one was orgs and something else.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of organizations in the world who already exist to champion human autonomous agency, the well-being of individuals, right? And so they are implicitly alignable as partners in pushing back on this widespread accepted ethic that it's okay to use people in the way we've described.
I really like the. I mean, honestly, diagrams work, but not for me. But I really like the text of what you read. And finally, after reading the text, I was like, okay, I get it. I get the diagrams, but usually that just sends my head spinning. So, but there's elements of this. How are you making this? How are you trying
talking to you, David?
This, I know that's a problem, right? Because I've only got 20,000 whatever viewers, but that's just subscribers. I don't know if anybody's going to see anything.
I understand. I have 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I don't think 10 of them follow me in reality. So I hear you.
Right. But it's a start.
But we'll take 10. We'll take 10, right? We'll take whatever comes. And, there are other interested parties in this. I'm just running out of bandwidth, which is why I called the meeting, so to speak, is that, I can't push this much further myself. But I think there's an organizational track, which is to build a value case proposition for all the alignable organizations as to why this is the place they can agree. They got to stop this because everything they care about really is being undermined by and is irrelevant in the face of this. Right? They're working. They're at the whack-a-mole level comparatively, right? And this is a unifier for them. There's also things we can.
Yeah, go ahead. No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's also individual things. I think there'll be, as some people become more awake to this, it depends on whether or not they're. I think for a lot of people, it's going to be, as I think, a place similar to a place that you've been, which is like, this is a red pill, blue pill thing, right? Like, do I want to just, yes, it's off the rails. It's hopeless. We're not going to be able to do anything about it. So just let me stay in the delusion and enjoy what I can. So I find this with a lot of young people. They're completely gone. They're completely gone. It's so scary. They're
That's
so
a terrifying
apathetic.
idea.
They're so apathetic that this thing. What was it? There was another newspaper thing or news article. I said paper. It's stuck in my head.
Yeah, you remember paper, right? Yeah.
I remember paper. The article said 60% of all the voters, voting population in America, think that the whole system's so rigged it doesn't matter. Right. And I would imagine that that's pretty tipped to the older folks, because if you went into the younger folks, it would be a much bigger number.
I bet that's right. Right.
So the majority of the young people coming up have resigned themselves to the fact that there's nothing we can do about this. This thing is off the rails. It's ugly. It's dark. It's abusive. It's going to be what it's going to be. So I'm going to create a little bubble for myself and the people I care about and live in it, and to heck with the rest of it, because there's nothing I can do anyway.
Right.
That's instantiating itself en masse in the youth. And then you've got the older folks, our group, that basically say, look, I've done whatever I can do, man. I mean, there's not much left I can do about this.
You mean the people who are even inclined in that direction?
Yep, right.
Yeah,
so there are people that could become aware of this, right? But have chosen to say, yes to all of it, but nothing I can do about it. So what the heck? But there'll be some people, I hope, that say, boy, we got to stop this, or at least I don't want to participate in it. And that's what leads to the organizations that are implicitly aligned on the one hand, and then for individuals, an alternative AI system. an alternative AI system, kind of like PBS before it got ad polluted, in its original intent, right, of being this kind of non-commercialized source that is structurally bound to an ethic that says, I'm never going to manipulate you. Your agency is always more important than mine. That's the fundamental ground of that AI, right? And that on top of everything, on top of being able to do what all the other AIs can do, it's a prophylactic against all the other AIs, right?
Oddly enough, I did a podcast with someone. I won't mention his name for reasons I'll explain to you afterwards. But or I'll cut it out right now. His name is Bernard Fritsch. But
okay, Bernard.
but and his claim, and in fact, I think he won an Edison Award for it in 2019. His claim is to have such an AI, have been developing such an AI that in his mind is usable to manage, not only to manage, but to predict. It's a predictive AI that that can be used to predict human behavior, but can also from behavior of AI predict AI behavior, and that seemed to me to be incredibly interesting and complete. I mean, whether he's the only one doing it or it works, but that's exactly what would be wonderful to have.
Yeah, I'd be interested in going into that. I don't know what predictive means here, and that's the ballgame in this case, right? I'm very concerned about the way that AI is being used to predict human behavior as a short circuit to their learning, which is another whole conversation we're not having right now, which is different, right?
Oh, right.
But yeah, I think enveloping people in an AI interface that protects them from the other AIs in the world, right? A kind of a bubble that they're in that's their own AI that's got a protection system about them. It doesn't necessarily. It's not about predicting them or predicting the AI. It's about watching all of the interactions to make sure that they're not abusive. So exactly. Which is actual.
It would have to be able to, however one sees the behind the scenes in AI, would have to be able to see AI behavior and make assumptions about,
But we could do that.
Just like you. Yep. Yeah. Right.
We can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that
it can
now.
Be done.
Yeah. We also have the capacity for a kind of AI police force. We talked about this. There's big talk about the AI club that's forming of AI agents, in their own network, and where that might lead. But it's possible to have an AI system that's kind of like the United Nations / police department of AI, right? That nations and people contribute to, that has an ethical separation from all commercial interests in AI, that uses AI to monitor the activities of AI in the world.
Right, exactly.
Right.
That's the idea.
And just make humans independently apart from, aware of, if not evolve into something that can stop the kind of AI abuse. You just,
excuse me. So you just pointed at the United Nations. Are there? So there's maybe the United Nations, but are there other entities that are aggressively, enthusiastically looking for that sort of solution?
I think there would be, except that we have an administration that's done everything it can to discourage the United Nations and the individual states from any kind of legislation or any kind of consideration that would in any way interfere with AI having full reign, the AI owning companies having full reign to manifest AI the way they think.
Right.
So there's lawsuits all over the country. Every time a legislator wants to come up like that, the Trump administration comes down and hammers them out. and
Right.
they
Right.
effectively thwarted the United Nations conversation about this as well.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't catch that. I know there was an executive order, sort of that the states can't regulate in any way AI or tech generally. But
Not only that, they've actually gone after individual legislators in states that have even tried to and said, basically, if you go forward with this,
we will primary you. Yeah.
We'll primary you out.
Right. Yeah, that actually suggests that there's a clear intelligence somewhere in the administration, which is, it's nice to know. But,
well, yeah, in the sense that the puppet has puppeteers that are smart.
That's smart, right? That's right. Okay, well, so the first place my mind goes is, well, people need to know. How do people know? It's in an education system, whatever an education system looks like. Sometimes it looks just like school, but otherwise it could look like this. It could look like all sorts of things. And we know how slow and fragile and pale those things can be. So you've thought a lot about that.
The conversation, yeah, my beginnings in all this is stewarding the health of children's learning. I mean, as if there's nothing more important to their futures than how well they can learn as and when they get there, right? So that's where I come from, was that. But the biggest obstacle to that is what we're talking about. Because any solution you come up with now, right? First of all, it takes years and years and years if it was implemented tomorrow.
If it was even enthusiastically embraced. Yes.
And the implications are that the very intent to do this would be something that would arouse the opposition to it, right? So school is not the battleground.
Right. Well, okay. You got one? What's the battleground?
Well, it starts with
social organizations. What?
I don't
that
have
human beings can participate in.
Yeah, humans. Yeah, there has to be a network of people that grow with this as an intent, as a focal intent, to get, as I said before, the other organizations who are implicitly aligned with this, but not explicitly connected to this, for them to gather power together, to be a force together by alignment on this. So we need nucleus of people to bring that about, as well as to advocate for some of the personal protection, AI security that we talked about.
Okay, so I did not see it in what you wrote. It may be elsewhere in the stuff on your various websites, but is there a list? And it would seem to me that having a list of those entities, individuals, entities, organizations, would be a really useful thing.
Yep. I started that.
Sort of networking.
There's a conceptual outline of who they are.
Yes, the conceptual outline seems quite good, but
it needs to be needs to be exploded, and that's an AI dive that could be done. It's just that I'm coming to a point of how many things I can do myself. Right. So
really. I mean, I know you've only showed two arms. As far as I can tell from looking through all of your stuff, you're only showing two arms, but I know you have at least 9 or 10. So
yeah. Well, I wish
you're doing a lot.
Anyway, so there needs to be a group that forms on this, and it takes this over, that becomes a thing into itself, that's championing the addressing of this underlying permission structure that's at the root of all of these problems, right? I mean, it connects up. You care about the environment. You care about changing the pollution in the water or the atmosphere or whatever it is. What's in the way?
Usually,
what does it take? Yeah. What does it take? Well, it takes enough of a population that wants it changed, and that can only happen if there's a relaxation of the resistance that's opposing a population ever having such a thing. Right?
I was about to say. Right.
Every friggin' problem we have retraces itself to the same root.
Yeah. Yes, but you keep painting. I mean, every avenue we're heading down, you keep. It's like not whack-a-mole, whatever the opposite is. It's like there's a new wall.
Yeah.
So you know.
See, here's the thing.
Through that
so let's okay, good. So let's pause there and say,
yeah.
What gives me hope is that most people, I think, if you could get them out and just have a conversation with them, right, and get to think about what we're talking about with them, they would not want this.
No, right. I think that's right.
Right? I don't think
sure, right.
Yeah. But for the most part, very few parents want what this means for their kids.
Right. Well, and if they, here's my fantasy. If they really understood what we were talking about, they wouldn't want it for themselves either.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So there's a learning gap. There's an implicit alignment between what people would do if they were aware of this, and their lack of awareness of this. Right. That's what got Trump elected, was playing that well.
Yeah,
playing this common.
But that's
brief.
what gets everybody elected.
right.
I mean, over and over again. So.
Yeah, well, but that's a kind of abusive play of this, right? We're talking about connecting with the same thing that's got him pissed that gave Trump the license, but doing something different with it.
Right.
So that's what gives me hope. The right group with enough resources and people that were trying to do work on this. There is a myriad of organizations who are implicitly aligned, and there's a population that's implicitly aligned. It's about bringing those things together in the right way.
Well,
Axios Go ahead. Well, Axios put out an article a day or two ago about kind of questioning, well, where's the politicians on this? Why isn't there somebody kind of rising up politically who's connecting the dots in the anti-AI world to champion that, right? Well, I don't necessarily want to go there, but I do think that again, this is not about individual charisma like a typical political campaign that's about a particular person. Right. This is about something that's more of a social cause with a legal fulcrum and a political action fulcrum and a public education fulcrum and a technological component, right, that has to form in order to have a chance of stopping this thing. And, back to where we started, we've sketched out the depth of the problem and the resistance against it, but also the implicit alignability of the world around doing something about it. And at the same time, we're running out of time.
Yeah, we're both running out of time, and we're potentially appealing to people. Well, this is a question. There has to be a way of delivering, whether it's a personality, which I sort of balk at, or there has to be a way of delivering that message that is at least as enticing to notice as the many things that you're trying to combat. Right? You got to get somebody's attention. You might paint you can paint the Mona Lisa all day long, but if people don't see it, right, or if it's not presented in some way that anybody notices,
yep, well, exactly. So now we get on to that. We've got enough of background. What's the way forward? So I thought about, there needs to be a book written, or there needs to be a documentary series, or something that people can gather around that's more of an object, right. Unifying object, or unifying resource system. So
are there currently this is an area I don't know a lot about. I mean, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Last name Lanier. He's not talking about this. He's written a bunch about, get off social media now, right? I mean, and so there are. I'm assuming there are people out there who, is it Jared Lanier? Something
I don't
like
recognize
that.
him.
But I'm assuming that there are people out there who are aware. Are you aware of a book or books or that even grab onto a piece of this?
Pieces of this, but at a much higher altitude or much further from the core implicate center of all of this, like Haight's work on schools and phones and stuff, right? I mean, of course, but that's not where the problem. I would say that's missing the part, right?
I'm talking about the part. I'm talking about are you aware of a place where you've bumped into?
I would send them all. I would send them my stuff and say, "Think if you're done."
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, all you have to do is write a book.
No, well, yeah. I'm not sure that I can do that either. So I just wanted to invite you into the dilemma with me, actually, and the more that you care about it, the more
I was
that
in after the last time.
Yeah.
I was in after the last time. I think I know. I mean, I see no clear path, because there wouldn't be a clear path, but in terms of searching for, it's like being stuck in a room where all the walls and the ceiling and et cetera are welded together. How do you get out? Yep. Right. And it's almost like a riddle, right? Like, how do you get out? And so that feels like the next piece, right? I think I understand without knowing in detail. I think I understand fairly well what the problem is, and I'm excited by the idea that there's the possibility of AI that could be demonstrated to manage AI. Because otherwise it seems so much bigger than anything, at least I can wrap my mind around, right? In terms of because it's, the forces of evil are enormous, right? So, but in terms of clarity of next steps, so finding like-minded, wisely directed people and organizations makes a lot of sense to me. And so I suppose I could ask AI that, but
yeah.
Who knows?
Well, you encounter people to the extent that this comes up with others, then that will be helpful in some way, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing I'm going to do is write to this fellow and see if there's a way to get us together.
Yeah, that'd be
us,
great.
Meaning you, and, right? Yeah. And
I think there's one of the dimensions we didn't talk about is a legal one. It's pretty thin. It's a pretty thin case, given how the Supreme Court and everything is stacked. But there's a good constitutional argument that the abuse of people's attention in order to entice them into behaving in ways they otherwise wouldn't, in order to extract value from their behavior, that is in violation with the involuntary servitude clause of the abolition amendment.
Yeah,
it really is, because they did everything they could to say you can't use people that way. Right, but they had no conception. This was before the newspaper. They had no conception of a mass media manipulation system. Right. But they still tried to do everything they could to stop involuntary coercive slavery behavior.
Yeah, I have less enthusiasm about legal solutions because you've sort of watched the Supremes over and over again, and not just the Supremes. I've just been reading a book. It's been out for almost 7 or 8 years. It's called These Truths by Jill Lepore, who is a historian. It was like a serious historian from Harvard.
I recognize the name.
Yeah, fabulous, and it's clear even before the Constitutional Convention, even before trying to get the folks to buy in, that they understood that their arguments against their deeply felt arguments against the king, the British king, and had implications that were undeniable about the rights of Indians, the rights of black slaves, and the rights of women. And they quite consciously didn't go there, most of them, because that was a loser.
Conflict of interest, right? For them.
Exactly. Yeah. And they knew that in order to hold this weird coalition together, if they started talking about slaves, they would lose the southern states. And if they started talking about Indians, they would lose that. And if they started blah, blah, blah.
The Missouri Compromise, 0.1. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
Same
exactly.
business, and it's been going on ever since. There's a great, it's a great doc. I'm not advocating the legal thing as a functional strategy that's going to do anything. It's a constitutional cover, right? It's constitutional cover for the argument against this. Because one of the things I'd like to see a legal defense of the right to abuse you. I'd like to see that brought out. Wouldn't that be interesting? To have a trial in which the defenders of the right to this ethic, the defenders of the right to manipulate people's behavior so as to extract value, that was brought out in a legal argument. Where do they stand?
I know somebody who's the chair of the board of the California ACLU, who's an interesting guy. And
exactly the kind of people we need to be talking to.
Yeah, exactly. He might just think, "Wow, this is bullshit. This is it's too big to you can't do that." But he's an interesting fellow. So who knows?
Yeah, if he understood where we started in the depth here, as a ground to then have this conversation about its interpretation at the constitutional level, there's a greater chance that he'd be sympathetic.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
see its value in relationship to what he's doing.
Right. Indeed. Well, right now he's doing, he's on a trail crew. This is how I met him from Boulder Creek. We go out one Saturday a month and chainsaws and chainsaws and hatchets and clear the trees that had fallen all over the trails. So that's what he's doing.
Cool.
But yeah, it was cool.
Well, that's what we're doing too, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Although not as much fun, but right.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah.
So
I am at once exhilarated and depressed.
Yeah. I think the fact that there's a possible path through this that's not hopeless is
right.
It's really a cool thing. I mean, it's good. It's a miraculous intersection in the center of this mess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
it feels like there's a possible path.
Yeah, it feels like it. But I mean, the solution to the problem depends on defining the problem. Right? And to the extent that we're chasing all kinds of illusory, superficial expressions of the problem, it's like the doctors playing whack-a-mole with the symptoms, not understanding the underlying disease or cause, right? So we got to get
chasing them
people
down gets there. right?
It can. But there's a good argument that it doesn't very well in medical science today.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm living with one of them.
You bet. I was thinking exactly that, right? And the dilemma you described at the beginning is in some ways the dilemma. Well, there may be a solution, and it costs how much? Holy shit! Right?
Yeah. But anyway, the more people that get to share the depth and that realize something needs to be done and that something's possible to be done, that then collaborate together towards getting something done, I don't see there's any substitute to that. There's no other way, right? There's no single technology. There's no single legal action. There's no substitute.
No.
One of my lines relative to the population to the viability of the country, there's just no substitute for a more learning-oriented population. There just isn't.
Just the way you. Right? They're never. I think this is true. I think I believe this. I don't know if it's true. Like so many things, there's not a clear path. There probably are people nibbling at various aspects of this, and doing what, sort of introducing some sort of sane action, some sort of sane explanation, some sort of sane awareness in a multiplicity of ways and places. And it's the either intentionally bringing them together or the magical coalition of those things that is how things change.
Yep.
Right.
And it's also how things can get distracted. Right. So,
yes,
like we're talking about, there's a million organizations that are playing whack-a-mole. Right. That are never that aren't focused deep enough to actually deal with anything but the superficial outcrops of the symptoms of the problem, right? Yeah. Rather than getting at the problem. Right. So we need a group that's not only impassioned to stop the abuse on the surface, but deep enough in understanding and intent to try to get at the underlying cause, because the underlying cause could only do so much damage in the past, but now it has AI.
Right. Yeah,
so
exactly.
The same thing that's distorted our world into what it is over the past century is now got superpower steroids.
Right, and it's interesting. I remember, I think it was in my youth. I remember I was a kid, and there was a big conversation going on that I didn't really understand, but sort of in the adult world that I did understand, which was about, commercials, TV commercials could not give false information, right? And prior to that, it was all about information. It just didn't matter if it was true or false. And so suddenly you couldn't do that. It was about razor blades and shaving and whatever. And it was clearly a step in the direction of facts matter, right? Truth matters. You couldn't use this information, this false information, to manipulate people's choices. And so, but it didn't go far enough, because what it didn't say is, because now if you do it emotionally, that's fine. You're not misleading people, right? You're not giving them false information. You're just giving them this feeling that then gets them to buy Coca-Cola, right? Or smoke those cigarettes.
Right. It gets defended as if people have the right to want what we've conditioned them to want.
Right. Except they leave that last part out of the sentence. Yeah. That's in parentheses, right? People have the right to want.
We were protecting their agency to conform to our intent.
What we have created for inside of them. Yes. Yeah. That is the problem. Right? Yeah. That is the problem.
So long as that license is generally accepted and commonplace, and that's just the way it is, no problem, nothing personal,
right?
Yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And you add AI's power to manipulate to that. how do we get out of this? There's no way to get out of this without stopping that.
Right. Right. Yeah, but that just pushes the question. Okay, great. So how do you stop that?
It gets back to where we started.
Right.
We're in the loop now.
Yeah, we're here. Right. The Moebius strip is.
Yep.
Right. Yep. Here we are again.
But it's a great place to be compared to.
It's better than. Yeah, it's better than. Well, it's that scene from The Matrix, right? It's better just I forget the guy's name, what the actor's name, but it's like, put me back. Yeah, put me back.
Put me back, yeah. I want the steak.
Yeah.
The steak and the girl.
Exactly. That's right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
there will be people who would say that, yeah.
Yeah, I know there would. But let's not waste too much oxygen on them. Let's talk to the ones that don't want to take that pill, that really do want. Right, and then out of that, we've got to build what we got to build in order to flip the switch on this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm happy to go anywhere that you've got any ideas about how to explore this stuff. I'm just delighted to be sharing and be in sync with you here.
Well, I really think a list. I'm going to try it with AI. You probably have a better way of trying it with AI because you know how to write those prompts. But I'm going to try and generate a list of what those. I'm going to plagiarize from some of the stuff that you have written, from the stuff sort of the most salient pieces, or at least encapsulations.
That's the other thing have your AI read all of my stuff and then through your filter summarize it.
Right. No, that's easy. I'm going to ask it for organizations that might be like-minded. If this is the
here's the thing. I took that step in my own mind. Okay, so now I've got a list of organizations. Now what am I going to do? They're not going to listen to me.
Right.
I come back to that's why the core group of people with enough combined whatever you want to call it to get the attention, to get heard. That's where the starting point has to be.
I get it. I totally get it. But to get that core group of people, there might be there might be one person in the ACLU who says the ACLU
like the person that's chopping the wood out of the way of the path.
Right, exactly. And and then I'm going to I'm going to try to get you and Bernard and I'm going to give you a little more information after we stop recording about this fellow, and Peter, and maybe anybody else we can think of who makes sense in a conversation together. So
good.
So in your spare time, whatever that means.
In the next week. No. This is really important, and so I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it with you, and anything that you feel inclined to and open to, and it's easy for you to do to be helpful to this I think it's great. I will over the course of the next week. I'm pretty slammed for the next few days, but I've been working on kind of building some kind of a quick summary and index. I'm always kind of leery of that, but this thing is so simple. It's so simple once you get it, right?
Right. Yes.
But it's like so many other things about the deep issues. They're simple when you get it, and they're really hard to get there.
Right. Yeah. I think that's right. I think that's exactly true. It is so simple in some ways.
But learning's been that simple, and we have this profoundly learning, disabling conception of learning, and yet it's right there in front of our nose every attentional nanosecond. It's like
totally. Okay.
So I will get you something that when you come across people, if you, in addition to whatever else you provide, I'll link to some place that's got a more navigable path into the stuff that I've assembled. Because I have rabbit holes that go down into most of these conversation components for anybody that's interested, from the history of the ethical diversion to the constitutional argument to the, security systems to the personal profile. There's things about all that.
Right. Good. Overwhelm me, and then I can ignore what I want to know. So yeah. And that's the other thing about it. It is in some ways overwhelming, and yet it can't be. That's the part they're having to get to the place where you get it.
Yep.
Right? Because then it's not overwhelming. Then it's just clear that's a problem. What to do is overwhelming, but...
Yep. But now you're in a better situation, and now what to do. Again, you've got the positivity of the fact that it's implicitly a basis for alignment of all these organizations, and it's implicitly what people want in their core, right? So there's this...
Right.
All the parts are there if the right kind of configuration of lightning happens,
Yeah. You bet. Okay. Are we at a point for me to press stop?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.